70% of my viewers don't reach the end of my first sentence, according to my YouTube analytics. So for the 30% of you who are still here in my second sentence, welcome! I am going to have a little bit of a longer intro than normal because there's a couple of things I want to cover. Firstly, I've got a sore throat. I've got plenty of water to deal with that, and there's also fireworks going off in the background. And if you see the scroll down here, this way, down here, it'll pop up and say, oh, you look at that, it's November, which gives you a little hint as to when I'm filming this. Whether I publish this video in November or beyond, I don't know yet because I haven't edited it. This is, of course, my series where I look at the various model websites, retailers and manufacturers mainly, and give myself an imaginary budget of £50 to have a look at all of the cool stuff and decide what I might buy. Now, I want to be clear straight up front, I haven't mentioned this before, I mentioned it in the description but haven't mentioned it in the video. I'm not affiliated with the companies in question that I do this. I've not been given any free stuff and nobody has given me £50 to actually buy any of the stuff that I choose. It's just a bit of fun. That's all it's for, just to go through and get kind of excited about some models that I'm never gonna buy. But let's actually get stuck in, because this is Warlord Games that I'm going to be looking at today. And people have suggested that maybe Warlord Games would have been the first website that I dealt with, because Warlord Games models have been predominantly what I've been painting for the last year and a bit. A lot of bolt action stuff, a lot of World War II. Because of that, I wanted to do a couple of others first and get to Warlord Games. Third or fourth or fifth, I didn't really mind, but it's turned out that it's third. I do have some other companies that kind of in the line that I want to look at, but if you have any suggestions, post in the comments below about companies that sell models or terrain. There's a few companies that specifically sell terrain that I am thinking about looking at. If this series continues to be popular, I'll just do it until people get bored of it. Speaking of getting bored of it, people are probably bored of this intro, so let's get stuck in. Warlord Games is, of course, most well known for their historicals. So we have World War II, we have the black powder eras, several hundred years, where muzzle loading muskets and the early rifles were predominant. Before then, Pike and Shot, so that's the early days of black powder and kind of the later times of spears and pikes, cavalry and all that fancy stuff. We also have all the way back to Hail Caesar. And then beyond that, we'll look at later some high fantasy and some science fiction. But let's come back to that. Let's just go in time order from the earliest of the Roman era. Skip over all the books. The first thing I notice is actually something that I already own. These are probably the cheapest models that I've ever bought. I think when I bought them, it was a box of 40, £25 maybe, a little bit more than 50p a model. Now, cheap plastic models, pound model, that's great. 50p a model, surprisingly cheap. However, the sculpting on these is actually fairly good. It's not fantastic, it's not like super finely detailed, but there's muscle definition, there's chainmail, there's wrinkles in the clothes. You can either paint them really simply and have a whole bunch of cheap models, or you can put a little bit of effort in and kind of, it's a good platform for a decent paint job. But as I mentioned, I already have some of those, so let's continue on. I'm getting a lot of sprues. Let's cheat and go price high to low, which is the opposite of what we usually do. Skip past all of the bundle deals that are well outside our £50 budget, and go on from here. Ooh, nice bit of terrain, actually. Is that Warlord Games, or is that a... So it doesn't specify any other... Oh wait, no, never mind. It is a Sarissa Precision. But like I mentioned, I've got some rules, and one of the rules is that if I'm looking at Warlord Games as a website, I'm going to focus on Warlord Games products. Sarissa Precision, some great stuff, is one of the ones I'm actually considering doing as a separate video, so we'll leave that for the moment. Here we have some... They look metal hand sculpted. I think I prefer the plastic ones, but these are pretty good. I like the kind of the square checker patterns. I might have to paint some of mine in that style as well. Haha! Honoured ya! Now I'm just having flashbacks of Age of Empires. That one had wheels. This one does not have wheels. It also has a crew, whereas the one in the game has no crew and is just magically working by itself. As a wooden artillery piece of the Roman era, in fact specifically the early Roman era, that's kind of cool. I'm not sure if it's making it to our shortlist just yet. Here we have some... this is something that will pop up a lot and that probably won't be appearing on our list. If you buy various rulebooks and expansion books from Warlord Games directly, some of them come with free limited edition models that you can't get elsewhere. And this one, Warrior Wife, it's just a civilian model carrying a child. That's kind of a cool model. Something that doesn't really show up in wargaming directly, certainly not the scale that I usually work at. You don't really have the baggage train and the followers on. It becomes very important for the logistics of this era and on until the petrol engine took over. Large group of civilians following the soldiers around to keep them going. We also have quite a lot of Perry miniature stuff. Obviously the Perrys and Warlord Games have some connections. I don't know exactly how connected they are, but they certainly have worked together and they help each other out professionally as well. Unlike certain companies based in Nottingham, a lot of them kind of do bounce off of each other and help each other out, do work for each other on contract, I guess, stuff like that. And I don't know the ins and outs of it. Babylonian chariots. I like the armour on the horses. And they've got a nice little umbrella to keep them out of the sun. That's cute. I like that. £21, so that would be our big spend, as it were. There are a couple of other chariots. Which one? Let's have a look at the Britain's chariot. Well, I think that has made our decision. Oh, no, it hasn't. So we've got two Celtic chariots, or two Britain's chariots. We've got the chieftain surfing on the back of the horse, and this guy at the back just cheering along. Good fun. But then we also have Queen Boudica, and that is a dramatic pose. We've got the skirts, we've got spear. That's okay. I'm going to leave them both on my shortlist, and I'm going to decide later, because that's a difficult choice to make. Would you like a couple of sprues of just farmyard animals? Cows and pigs. There's a cat in there as well. Cat and a dog. And a goose. Oh dear. Okay, this is definitely going on just for the goose. And a duck. I don't think I've ever seen a mallard miniature before. Well, now I have. Oh, the sea peoples. Interesting. Okay, this is a little bit of history that from this era that I sort of know a little bit about. Generally speaking, the Roman era isn't something... Oh, this is well before the Roman era. This is the Bronze Age. Hang on a second. The Sea Peoples massively predate the Roman era? Because this is the Mediterranean Bronze Age collapse. The Sea Peoples were one of the instigating parts of the Mediterranean Bronze Age collapse. Perhaps it's simply a case of the rule set is adaptable enough to go forwards and backwards in history quite a bit. To be fair, until gunpowder becomes prevalent, most battle systems can be made to work in any era up until that point. So maybe that is part of that. But the Sea Peoples, definitely an interesting one. I kind of like their armour. It's got a little bit of kind of the Roman banded armour, ring armour design. Kind of aesthetically, I don't know if it's made in the same way. We also have horned helmets, which is always a fun thing to have. Fireworks again. Hittite spearmen. Again, not a historical era that I'm familiar with, but I just noticed that the models look quite distinct in comparison to others. They're a very simple kind of civilian clothes rather than what I would expect a military uniform to be, but then different eras, different uniforms, and in many cases no uniform at all, just a band or a sash to say what side you're on. I actually do like that design. This is one of the things where if they were a plastic set, I'd buy one sprue of them rather than a full box. But they look to be a metal. Yeah, down here we've got metal. I'll leave that on the shortlist because I actually do quite like those. So I can't scroll past a good cloak. Anyone who's been watching my channel for a while will know how I love cloaks. And these kind of studded cloaks, knobbly cloaks, that's an interesting style. Got city-state spearmen. This is definitely kind of a uniform design for them, but again, it's one of those things where I'd like 2 or 3 of them to bulk up a like an RPG session. Having 8 of them is a bit too much for my needs, but of course these are designed for a battle game where you'd probably be buying multiple boxes, not just the one. And we're now kind of getting into the individual sprues, so I'll skip over into a different time period. But I do notice that the farmyard animals can be bought as a single sprue rather than a double sprue. So if I get that instead of the full box, that halves the spend on that from 18 to 9 and means it's more likely to stay in. It's also quite unlikely to stay in given how much else there is. You will probably have noticed that on my little scroll through here I haven't looked at a single archer. I find archers to be terribly dull. Sorry to all the archer fans out there. I don't know, I painted a whole bunch of them at one point and I've never looked back. But don't count us out yet, because on my way past I spotted these, a group of... the tree is not included, unfair. Just a bunch of angry kids. A little cat. It's a dog, a mum, and some chasing around some kids. That's funny. This is definitely coming up with ideas for RPG sessions where you just have everyone playing as kids and causing havoc and breaking windows. That's just fun. So as I mentioned, we were going forwards in history. So we've gone past kind of the pre-gunpowder era, and now we're into the early gunpowder era. Pike and Shot. So it's still predominantly cavalry and spears and that kind of thing. Let's do the same price high to low and skip down to £50. Oh, these are fancy. The Polish winged hussars, look at them. Fancy little feathery doodads. Love it. £36 for that box, so a lot of our £50 budget for today. If there's a smaller set of these, maybe a character, I might pick up those rather than cavalry regiment. Cannons! Yay! There's a whole bunch of cannons of different types and different sizes and mortars and all that. I've gone for the Scots one. It's 21 quid, so again, it would be our big spend. It might not be likely to survive, but it's the coolest of the cannons. So I thought I'd at least try. I'm giving cannons the best shout. Oh, yes. Oh, now that's cool. The Musketeers. More than 3 of them, but that's fine. We've got all of the powder flasks. We've got the... there's a name for it, but the musket stand. The fancy hats. They've not got them pinned on the sides. This one's got it pinned at the front. I guess that wasn't in this era. Yeah, I hoped we'd get them. Okay, it's a pack of 3 Polish hussars, the winged hussars. So we'll have these. It's a pack of 3 for £13. Whoa, where was my first set? There they are. So that was 36. So a lot better for us today with our limited budget. But I did spot on my way past villagers and townsfolk. Now these are fun models. Again, if you're playing an RPG, this is the type of thing that becomes very interesting. We've got blacksmith, we've got drunk, we've got a couple of kids playing around, we've got fishmonger, we've got bouncer, and a beggar. There's a whole variety of different things. I'm definitely going to keep both of these on the shortlist for the moment. Cromwell. This is a very different model to the last Cromwell I painted. And as I suspected, it's going into single sprues and kind of wall sections and boring stuff like that. So let's look at the next time period, which will be Black Powder. We'll get to epic battles in a minute. Don't worry. Black Powder. So this is now historical times where... That's going at the top of the shortlist. I really want this model. Isn't that so cool? That is such a good representation of that character. Captain Aubrey. I want that so much, but you only get it with the Black Powder rulebook and not singly, and that's £35. Certainly not great for our £50 budget today, but also I don't want to spend £35 on a really cool model that comes with a free book that I'll never read. Maybe I should start playing back Black Powder, because then it becomes much more relevant. as I was saying, the historical kind of general time period we're talking about with black powder is now musketry is becoming much more effective, kind of into the rifle era, but a lot of muskets as well. It's talking about several hundred years of history. We've still got some amount of pikes. We've still got cavalry roaming around, but it's a lot stronger in terms of how much gunpowder is being used rather than just blades. Right, let us do the high to low trick again. Skip down to £50. There's a lot of big sets. Oh, now that's good. The 95th Rifles, anyone? The Chosen Men? So, for anyone who doesn't know the history of this, this is Napoleonic era. Instead of having bright red uniforms or other bright coloured uniforms so that your general can see where you are on the battlefield, they went with green so that the enemy can't see them on the battlefield. A lot of European warfare revolves around being seen so that your general can organise a battle up until sort of this point in the next 100, 200 years where not being seen by the enemy suddenly becomes very important again. The 95th Rifles are also famously in the Sharp series. And so... Oh, we've got a supine. Or a sitting position. That is a shooting stance you don't see very much. That's pretty cool. Ah, we've got one with a tam o' shanter. Yeah, we know who all these guys are. Do we have... I can't see it. I'm looking for the knock volley gun. Well, regardless, we'll keep them on because that's pretty cool. I'm finding as I scroll through the Napoleonic era section that I am almost entirely uninterested in this era of military history. Maybe not totally uninterested, but I'm uninterested in painting models from this era. That's probably closer to the truth. The Perry models are fantastic and true scale. The Warlord Games models are more of a hero scale, but certainly very stylistic, very cool models. I'm just less interested in this. Oh, hello. That looks familiar. I did one then. Okay, it seems we've fallen off into single sprue territory. However, I've just noticed that we have the American War of Independence Field Artillery sprue, which comes with a little cannon on a chassis. I'm going to have to... Give me a moment. Right, so it seems like this is a single sprue from the Field Artillery box, usually £24, and you get 2 cannons. But if we go separately... I've lost it. There we go. But if we go separately, it's £7 for 1 sprue. That doesn't... The maths on that doesn't check out. I'm not sure if the maths on that is checking out or if I'm missing something. But that's definitely the same sprue. But 1 sprue by itself is £7, and then the box is 24, and it comes with 2 cannons. And so that would imply 2 sprues, unless there's a different sprue in there as well that you're not getting when you buy them separately. I don't know. But it's quite interesting because not only do you get various heads for different nations throughout the period, you also get a general on a horse, one guy waving a hat, one guy waving a sword. Guess who they are? They're famous people. But you also get a character called Molly Pitcher as well. And that's actually... I wouldn't be using that with the cannon, but that's a cool model to add along with some of the civilian stuff that we've already picked out. So I'm definitely having... Yeah, that's the lady there. We've got some injured soldiers. We've got various heads. We've got the horse for the general. Sword, hand, and hat waving. Yeah. Chassis for the cannon. Gun barrels. This sprue is one of the first sprues going on our list. And that's just one of the cool things about Warlord Games, is that you can buy individual sprues of stuff. And that might just be quite relevant to us, because we'll be buying a limited selection, because we've only got the imaginary £50. But let's go on to the time period that I am most familiar with, which is, of course, World War II, and particularly bolt action. And I'm not going to bore you with this, because I could go through and I could pick out all sorts of weird stuff, mostly armoured cars. All of the armoured cars, because they're weird, and I like weird armoured cars. But I've also got a lot of this stuff, because I play bolt action so regularly, if there's something I want, if there's something I'll use, I've probably already bought it. But there are a couple of things that is on my wish list currently. And the first one is this, the Italian Paracaduzzi, which I've pronounced incorrectly, weapons teams. Now these are the CO cast, the Warlord Resin Plus models, which problems may exist with that, but the actual models physically themselves are really nice and are coming out very well. As you've probably noticed from the videos and pictures I've been posting, I am starting an Italian army. I'm most of the way through the core of the army, and there's just a few little bits that I want to get, and that includes the flamethrower team, particularly here, but also having the mortar, the light mortar, and the sniper team. They're just useful extra models to have, but particularly the flamethrower team, because I've got a really cool staff car for my Italians, and I'm planning on a 2-model officer and a 2-model flamethrower team in the staff car, followed up by a truck full of Bersaculari, as just to get stuck in and toast things. And that's kind of good for the tabletop, but we're talking about models today, and when it comes to models, these are the weapons teams, and particularly the Italians, as that's just the ones I'm looking at the moment. I've kind of kit-bashed a lot of stuff along the way, so I haven't actually had need of these from any of the other factions, which is a shame. But for the Italians, none of this comes on the plastic sprues, and so kind of forced into buying it separately, but I do need the flamethrower team specifically, and so that is on our list. Another one of the models that I'm kind of considering for bolt action is a Crusader. Now unfortunately Warlord Games only sells the metal and resin version. So this is a resin hull, resin turret with a couple of metal, probably the gun barrel, the hatches, that sort of thing, are metal. And some people really hate these, and some people really like them for various reasons, but they are just different from plastic kits. Certainly they are quicker to put together, but then they're also a lot longer to deal with all of the fitment issues and the filing and the cleanup and stuff like that. So swings and roundabouts, it's just a different style. Particularly the Crusader, because I've got 4 medium tanks for my British. I don't need another medium tank, what I need is a light tank. And I think that the Crusader is the coolest looking. I think it's just because it's got this like little squashed flat turret thing. I like that style. Unfortunately, at £28 because it's a resin and metal one, I'm going to leave it on my shortlist because it is one that I want, but it's probably going to have to get dropped for our £50 challenge because that's more than half in a single model, unfortunately. But in 28mm scale is not just bolt action, we also have Conflict 47 and a lot of stompy robots, a lot of mutant things, and the heavy armoured infantry. Now, I have been doing a series on the infantry officers. Now, sadly, the Italians don't have an infantry officer set specifically, but what they do have is an infantry squad of their own type of armour. The southern Italians, I'm not going to get into Conflict 47 lore, but the southern Italians have allied equipment, and so they've got the British Galahad suits with some modifications. But the northern Italians, still sided with Germany, have their own much more Roman centurion inspired look. I'd really like an infantry officer, an armoured officer with this armour. 3 models with the styling. 2 of them are probably the same as this, that's how they usually do it. And then the officer himself will be a slight variation. But these are the only ones carrying shields, I think, unless I've missed one. And that's just a very Roman style, and I would definitely be painting the shield in that bright red of the Roman centurion. Unfortunately, it's £40 for the squad of 10. £4 a model isn't that bad because these are chunky bits of metal, but I would just really like the officer version of this, which doesn't exist yet. What does exist yet for the Japanese is the only walker vehicle that I actually like in Conflict 47, and that is the Scorpion Lightwalker. And I think this is just reminding me of Ghost in the Shell a little too much. That's probably why I like it. I do just love this little four-legged scurrying thing, because all of the others, they have the various different styles, and I'm just not a fan of most of them. There's a couple here and there that I kind of like, but not really. But this one, I do really like. Now, I've got a plan for when I do the Japanese armoured officer to paint them in a very bright and vibrant samurai style colouring, and I'm probably going to go for blue rather than red, which is, I think, all of the colours were used at different points, but red is the one we often see in modern media of samurai and shogunate era, particularly the late shogunate period. But continuing on the kind of the way that I've been painting my armoured officers to match the vehicles, none of my World War II Japanese vehicles will be blue, but this thing, if I get it, when I get it, this thing will be blue. And it will match the, what are they, the Tachanka from Ghost in the Shell. And again, I'm almost certainly mispronouncing that because I'm going off of my memory. Whichever. But this is definitely going on the shortlist. And as we've said several times, it is over half of the budget. It's over half of our £50 budget. So it's probably getting dropped, unfortunately. But there are some not bolt-action related World War II games in the World War II section, because we also have Victory at Sea. And I already have the Victory at Sea starter set, the Battle for the Pacific. The Battle for the Pacific, specifically. The Battle for the Pacific, specifically, which has US fleet and Japanese fleet. It has cruisers and destroyers, which means that to play a full game, you'd want to be adding to it, but it's certainly enough to play starter games, which is obviously what starter sets are for. Both of these fleets, the one thing that they're really crushingly missing, obviously you want some PT boats and some smaller things, but the one thing that they're crushingly missing is aircraft carriers. And probably the Soryu, although maybe I'll go for the Akagi for the Japanese. And for the Americans, you can't really not go for the USS Enterprise. Although the model there is incredibly dull. I've always wondered that these are £23 compared to single figure resin models, which are a lot less than that. They are more intricate and detailed, and when it comes to moulding, this is much more difficult to actually because there's so many overhangs and things. You end up with a lot of failures in the mould. The kind of the silicon breaks away. Probably the lifespan of each mould is lower for something like this than for a 28mm infantry model, and that's probably part of why it's more expensive. It's also probably because it's bigger, but I'm pretty sure, vaguely convinced, that these are all done with one-piece dump molds. I might be wrong on that. I'll have to ask them next time I go to Warlord Games. But both the Enterprise, and I'm going to have the Soryu this time, although the Zuikaku does look really cool in that green. We'll leave all of them on there and move on to the next game, which is a little bit more airborne. Because we have Blood Red Skies, and I actually also have the starter set for Blood Red Skies. In fact, I have both of the starter sets for Blood Red Skies. The Battle of the Pacific is Japanese versus Americans, and the Battle for Britain, which I think they don't sell anymore, is obviously Britain and Germany. Which leaves me in the position that I could very much go for a Russian and an Italian squadron to complete the kind of the six main belligerents of World War II. But there's actually another thing that I very sort of want, and that is the de Havilland Mosquito. This thing is my very favourite plane of all time, and I've never been able to work out why until I went to the London RAF Museum and saw one up close. And I realised that the two engine cowlings on the wings, they're shaped for the same Merlin engine as the Spitfire. And so they end up being the same Okay, there's people shouting in the backgrounds typing angrily in the comments that that's... But there's this variant and that variant and this other engine, and yeah, okay, calm down. We get the idea. The point is that the 2 engine cowlings for the Mosquito are the same shape as the nose of the Spitfire, because they use the same or similar engines, and they're designed by very similar... Are they designed by the same? I don't think they are, but they come from the same lineage of engine and aerodynamic design. And so what you end up with is the Mosquito is a Spitfire chariot. And that's why I love the Spitfire. The Spitfire has such a cool shape. It is an iconic British design of World War II. It's fantastically effective at quite a number of things and looks amazing. And if you notice, I have picked out the Fighter Ace Pickard, who with a single Mosquito model, because that's £13, rather than the Squadron, which is more but has 6. And the starter sets come with a bunch of Spitfires and without an Ace, so having an Ace Mosquito would just be an interesting addition to that. So that's my choice for Blood Red Skies. There's also Cruel Seas, which I haven't encountered in the slightest. It's a much bigger naval game. It's more like coastal defense. And do you get infantry in this game? It doesn't look like it. Looks like it's strafing planes and PT boats and littorals and cruisers and that kind of thing. I tell you what, some of these ships in the bigger scale, because this is 1:300 scale, that's a cool model. What's 1:300? 6mm tall, 5-6mm tall a person would be. Is there anything for less than £50 that is... Oh, you actually do get crew figures. Cool. You can buy a bunch of crew and add them to the ships. Nice. I didn't actually realise that. But here we go. Here's the cheapest models from Cruel Seas, which is motor torpedo boats. That's the MTB motor torpedo boats. You get 2 boats. It looks like they're slightly different designs, different superstructure, got torpedo tubes, obviously. But I did want to include at least something from Cruel Seas. I actually didn't want to include something from Cruel Seas, but now that I've had a look at it, I think it's actually quite interesting to have ships in that scale. So I did want to eventually wanted to add something. So I picked the cheapest British model, the Vosper motor torpedo boat. And with that, let's move away from historicals and move in to the fictionals, and we'll go for mythical and fantasy first. And we have in here the Warlords of Erewhon, Mythic Americas, Frostgrave and Oathmarker from separate companies, as is River Horse, so we'll skip over those. But let's just look through Factions of Erewhon. What on earth is it? Okay, that's cool. Samurai riding Kumano lion dogs. Good grief, that's cool. That's like something out of Tomb Raider. I'm definitely having these on the short list. Ooh, okay. That's fancy. That's really cool. So that's 9 models, each of them in a completely different style for £17.50. That's £2 a model. And they're all pretty nicely sculpted. I like this guy. That would be, yeah, these would all be cool to paint. I'm loving this whole just anime characters. Yeah, that's definitely going on the shortlist because they are cool models and they're all different styles as well. We also have some undead, although that's a very short list of undead. Some skeletons and some zombie Indians, some Indians. Funny. A lot of these sections seem to be very small, and a lot of them seem to be filled with Frostgrave and Oathmark stuff. So, not relevant to us today, although I'll probably look at Frostgrave and Oathmark at some point, because there's just a lot of cool options in that line as well. Let's move on to the Mythic Americas, because this is where things get pretty cool. So each of the 3 nations of the Mythic Americas has one massive monstrous creature, and this is a Quetzalcoatl. Quetzalcoatl? I believe that's roughly how it's pronounced. That's a fun paint job, just right there. That is a fun thing to paint. And as has been pointed out very, very clearly in previous episodes of this series, I love big wings. It doesn't even have to be feathery wings. It could be tech wings. It could be all sorts of wings. I just love wings. Look at that. This is the type of paint job that I would happily spend quite a long time just because of how much work there is going into it. I do some tricks and things to speed things along. Airbrush, dry brush, washing, that sort of thing. But I would also put in the time to actually pick out a lot of this stuff in a little more of an interesting way. And it is less than £50, so we could technically have it. I'm going to keep it on our shortlist. Yuck. Aztec IR, which is just a lot of body parts of animals. Crocodile jaw, there's a rib cage in there, there's a wolf's head. Ew. Yuck. And we have some spider sisters. What an AI would draw if you told them to draw someone crawling. Good grief, that's hurting my brain. Are their spines twisted? Are they... Yeah, that's just hurting my brain. But for £6, because a lot of the Mythic America stuff is discounted right now, and so that counts. I get to include that in my challenge. Yeah, let's keep those. Let's keep those. And go on to the Incas, who have a giant snake sword-wielding, the Inca Maras. Again, this is cool. Not as cool as the one with wings, but that's because I like wings. Plenty of places to draw, to paint in lots of detail. That's not a wash. That's not a wash. That's sort of the kind of effect you get with a wash, but that's not a wash. That's been blended in. Is that non-metallic? No, that is metallic. Okay, so I'm pretty sure I know who painted these because I talk to her every year at the Warlord Open Day. But wow, that's amazingly detailed. And we also have, temporarily out of stock, the Sapper Warlord on Spirit Jaguar. 4 armored Jaguars to go with. That's just cool. The glow around the mouth and the eyes is pretty cool as well. But just the sheer quantity of like golden armor on them. They're beautiful models. And again, painted really nicely. I mean, look at that. Look at that. That's all freehand. That is all freehand. That's all freehand. Guarantee you those whiskers are freehand. That's so well done. That's so nice. But we also at some point have to look at the Mayans. Good grief, what is this? Demon bat thing. Kamazots. Trust my pronunciation at your peril. I love how they've done the basing for these 3 big, like the big monsters for each faction. It's just a nice touch. It makes them a bit more dynamic, and they're not just standing on it; they're actually interacting with it a bit more. I'm not as much of a fan of it. Oh, look at the way that is sculpted. Good grief, that's so nicely done. The wrinkles in the kind of leathery parts of the wings. Look at that gribbly little face. But then there's also one set of models that I've been staring at for a long time, and oh, would you look at that, they're discounted, they're half price right now. Oh dear, this is dangerous. These are the Were-Jaguars, and I have seen these specific examples in person, because they're in the cabinets at Warlord Games, and you can see them on their open days. And oh my word, these are beautifully painted. I don't necessarily want 5 of them. I want 2 of them, maybe 3. I'd want to convert one to science fiction just because I think that would be quite interesting to have this kind of character, this kind of creature in a science fiction setting. Yeah, that is... I just love these models. And the paint job as well, all that freehand, all of that detail work. Look at this angry chap. Look at this. So it's painted in with a muscle texture and a fur texture and the spots. How do you paint like that? So well done. And look at this. The cloth wraps are very, very similar in tone and in hue to the base of the fur. I think that's the same pigments there as there. There's quite clearly a different piece. That's the way they've separated it and highlighted it differently. The dark line also helps. Masterful painting is basically what I'm getting at. And also, just really cool models. Yeah, I was talking about a science fiction one. Imagine this one. Cut off the spear and have big old minigun. That's the right pose for that. Or perhaps this one. Again, take off the spear and put in a laser katana. And put like a a jetpack on him. I don't know what I'm planning on doing. I haven't got that far. I'm just looking at them thinking they're cool. These are definitely, especially now that they're discounted, that's lucky for us. These are definitely going on our shortlist, which means there is only one section left. Finally, we're getting close to the end of this video. Thanks for sticking with us. A quick mention from the editing desk about what I just said in the main video. As you can see from the timeline below there, I'm about halfway through editing the video, so no, we're not nearly at the end. There's plenty left to go. Back to the video. We have science fiction section, and there are a couple of things that we should look at. We do have Project Z, which at the moment is, I think everyone is of the opinion that this is being discontinued, particularly as it looks like probably the best one is now out of stock. So this is the Modern Military, or Spec Ops, from Modern Military look, and as is painted here, you can do these up as the Modern British Army, if that's the thing for you. And Warlord Games is a British company, so it makes sense that they've got Modern British Army, along with all the historical British. I do want to point out the Biker Gang, though, because this set is fantastically cool. I think you're nominally supposed to be able to build 9 characters, or 10, but you've got so many spare parts, so many arms, and so many spare legs as well. But yeah, if we look at the sprue here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is a pair, 7 is a pair, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 12 sets of legs just there. And there's loads of arms. There's arms holding handlebars, there's arms holding weapons, there's guns and swords, and a fire axe, which is fun. And then we've got the hero sprue, which has a much bigger bike. It's got a minigun on it, a rocket launcher. That's just cool. Going to leave that in the shortlist for the moment. We also have Judge Dredd, which is a license that Warlord has and is expanding upon. I'm pretty sure there's some new stuff coming up for Judge Dredd soon. So if that comes out, or when that comes out, someone let me know, because I'll like to have a look. But there's a couple of models here that are just weird, like alligator soldiers with rifles, a whole bunch of rogues and villains. Some of these are similar styling, but there's also a couple that are very different. That is that's Trinity right there. That's cool. Batwing flying sort of dude. We've got a bunch of gangers, more generic looking ones. Although I can say that the special edition model that comes with a couple of the starter sets and the big fancy rulebook, this Dread vs Death model, I actually have this model already, and I just haven't gotten around to painting it yet. I really should do that, because this is a cool model. But I already have it, so we don't have to look at it too much today. So you can buy Judge Dredd separately, and it comes in as a 2-pack, 1 on foot and 1 mounted. It is £20 for that, which is maybe a bit much. Again, it's that licensing cost and the fact that these are metal models. Oh no, it says here that they're Warlord resin. Oh, okay. This is a cool set to have Dredd, but I've also noticed that we have Anderson as well in the same type of set. You get 1 on foot and 1 on the bike. I would love to have both of these sets, but they are, like I said, £20 each, so that might not be happening. And I did just notice these guys, and for anyone who's been following my ramblings here and there, I do quite like a jet bike for various reasons, and that one in the middle, that's really cool. Onto the shortlist video. It's £30 for this set. Probably not going to happen. But onto the shortlist video. And so now we can look at the very final game. We've got paintbrushes and stuff at the end, but we'll skip those because that's less interesting. But we have the Gates of Antares, or Antares. From what I've heard, it is bolt action on a D10 system in space. And all of these models are cool, gribbly science fiction space suits and really fancy things. All sorts of lore has gone into this as well. But let's have a quick look through some of the factions. Yeah, like I said, gribbly, weird things. The ED-SKaR Protector Squad. I like them, but I'm not sure. I don't think I'll have these. They are kind of drawing me in a way. In the mercenaries section, we have Tog. Good old Tog. Great chap. Cool model, kind of a stoic pose. Interestingly odd weapon. And £6, which means that I can actually maybe have a chance of getting it. Ooh, these are nice. So the Vitari are sort of a very polygonal insect look. Oh, I do quite like these. Ah, there's actually not many of them. The Drone Scourge. It sort of seems to be very much like a jet bike. Is this the right size? So it doesn't actually specify in the description exactly what size it is, but just going off of the picture, it seems like it might be sort of jet bike sized, maybe a bit bigger. It's very strange because it doesn't have a central point to the model. Like usually you'd have a rider or a computer screen or something to focus on, but this is just a bunch of angled shapes, and yet I quite like it. And that's strange, but I like it. So the next faction is the Osirians, and we have these tall, spindly people, which is really cool looking armor. Do we have a separate view? Piping for the... Is that a jetpack? Is that like a booster pack? Is that why she's flying? It's kind of cool. I kind of like that. Yeah, I'm not a fan of a lot of the aesthetics of this faction, unfortunately. So the GAR are... Oh, don't tell me they're space dwarves. Okay, they're space goblins, it looks like. They're yuck. Or maybe they're supposed to be the Roswell Greys. That they've just painted different, not grey, for these specific images. I like some of the styling, but I don't like the actual GAR themselves. Maybe if you painted them in that Roswell grey, maybe I'd be a bit more familiar with them. Ooh. Oh, hello, Dune. Oh, these are fancy. That's like still suits and cloaks. As has been mentioned, I love my cloaks. That's cool. Oh, these look badass. Still suit, Mad Max, biker dude in the desert, big trench coat, energy guns. Yeah. Freeborn Magris Mahagris Feral Squad. Oh, and I like all the weapon crews as well. They've got all these. They've got again that kind of still suit aesthetic, but with robes and cloaks. Yeah, that's cool. So the jet bike equivalent for the Freeborn. I sort of like that. It's kind of a mix of a hoverboard, a scooter, and a Vespa standing jet bike. They do have the big cloaks, which is good. Definitely going to get caught in the wind and knock you off, but it looks cool. Oh, look at this guy. This guy. There's one of the Star Trek films. This guy's reminding me of one of the enemies from one of the Star Trek films. I like this set. This is the Freeborn Fractal Cannon. Right, the next faction is the Concorde. I like the jet bikes. I actually really do like those jet bikes. Yeah, I think I might have to keep these for the shortlist. Ooh, we get a fancy spinny. Not many spinnies on Warlord Games, or at least I don't think there are. I haven't noticed any until now. That's a cool model. I actually really, so this is Commander Josen for the Concorde. Ooh, that's fancy. Okay, forget what I said about that last one. This one's cool. I love how there's an air bubble in the flight stand in the picture. I hate acrylic flight stands for exactly this reason. They're shiny and obnoxious and they have air bubbles. Yuck. The Boromite faction is not something I am terribly interested in. I sort of like to have one of them, so if I'm going to try and find the character models, because I sort of like the idea of one model of these. Oh, okay. Oh, okay then. That's cool. Boromite Lavamite Handler on Suspensor platform. Yes. That's cool. I take everything back. I'm sorry, Boromite. Boromite? Boromite. That's cool. That's definitely going on the shortlist. And finally, the Algorians? What's this? They're very sinister. They're a bit Reptilia Sapien from Doctor Who, kind of, which I kind of like. Let's see what their infantry like. Oh, that's just a dude. Well, you're not the lizard people, you're just a dude in a big armoured suit. It is a nice armoured suit. And their jet bikes are cool too. I'm kind of torn between the Freeborn and the Algorian? Because the Freeborn had that kind of Dune Mad Max aesthetic. Whereas the Algorian, kind of the space soldier suit, kind of 20 minutes into the future sci-fi look. But it's actually done in a slightly different style from normal, and I actually quite like it. And I like that. That's £65. Never mind. What do the weapons teams look like? Yeah, I kind of like the armoured suits. And I'm not sure why. I like they have cat heads. Is it just me, or do they have cat heads? The pictures won't zoom in anymore. Looks like this is one of the lizard folk. Are the Algorians like a mix of... It's not like a species, it's more of a faction. And so you have the different species working together. Because that's cool. That's a good... Yeah, so we've got a lizard folk, feline folk. We don't even get a zoom-inable version of this. I might keep just one sprue of the Algorian AI, or AL, plastic frame. Right, we have finally come, at long last, and I have no idea how long this video is going to be, because that took me a long time to film, just going through the wide variety of stuff that Warlord Games has to offer. All of the historicals, the high fantasy, and the science fiction at the end there. Not a lot of those last two, but some good offerings in them. Now, I have to go through all of the stuff that I have picked out onto my shortlist, which is, there's a long line of it on my screen right now. So I'm going to pick it down £50 for our imaginary £50 budget that we don't have. But this time, I'm actually going to show that process. In the previous videos, I've kind of skipped over this because I think it would just add too much length. And this video is already so long, so why not make it longer? But some people have been interested in seeing that, so I'm going to try it out. I'm going to see, do people actually want to sit through me going through each of the models that I have picked to see just how I whittle it down to nothing. And I think the first thing I have to do is separate out everything that's above £25, because obviously I can only ever have one thing above £25, and decide if any of those are something I want. Yeah, I think we can drop the Maras. It's cool. It is very cool, but not for £30 today. I also think the Kamazots, it's cool, but not for today. The Quetzalcoatl I'm definitely keeping for the moment. Oh yeah, we had the Zuikaku and the Soryu. I'm going to keep the Soryu. Let's get rid of the Zuikaku. Keep the Enterprise. Oh, the Crusader tank. Yeah, I think we have to drop that. It's cool, and I do want it, but I'll probably see if I can find a plastic kit rather than the metal and resin one. £35 for one model and a book. As much as I want that model, I think we have to drop that just for today. If anyone wants this book and doesn't want that model, firstly, you're crazy. Secondly, can I have the model? Now, we did get that sprue, the plastic sprue with a cannon, so I think we can drop all of the complete cannon models. Oh, did I keep Cromwell? Ah, the 95th Rifles, yes. I can't keep them, I'm sorry. £35 for 16 models is actually, that's a pretty good price. It's just over £2 a model. And they are, of course, Sharp's Legends. But, just for today, I think they're not quite what we're looking at. Oh, the chariots. Oh, the two Celt chariots that I really liked. Oh, Boudica's definitely the better one. This dude riding on the top. It's very Asterix and Obelisk in a way, which is cool. But let's get rid of that and let's keep Boudica. The Sea Peoples. Yeah. I think I want to do some more research into the Sea Peoples to see which. Well, I just picked out this one kind of randomly. Let's drop this for now. And I'll look at the Sea Peoples at some point in the next few years and maybe look into some Sea Peoples models, but not for today. I do like the cloaks, but these are very similar sculpts. I'm not sure how many sculpts there are there, but they're all very much the same. Let's drop the early city-state spearmen. Dredd and Anderson. £20 for one model each. Technically two, but one character. If it was £20 for Anderson and Dredd, for like £15 for them on foot, £25 for them both on bikes, rather than £40 for all four, maybe. But let's drop Dredd and Anderson. The Hittite spearmen. These were nice. Actually, I really like this style. I don't think they're grabbing me at the moment. Let's drop those. These jet bikes were cool. There are other jet bike options. I don't have to get a jet bike every time. Yeah, let's drop these, the C3s. They are cool. I don't need two options for the Freeborn in the same set. It's not one of our rules, but let's drop one of them. And I think the fractal cannon is a little bit cheaper, but it's also got this dude who is just cool. And although I love the Feral squad, the Magaris Feral squad, I really do though. They are cool. No, let's drop the Feral squad. Let's keep the fractal cannon. Okay, so I have all of the models that are £25 or more. I need to drop all but one of these, and possibly just all of them. Sapir Warlord on Spirit Jaguar. Sorry, you're cool, but we have to drop. IR. Yeah. It's a gribbly beast with lots of bits. It is cool. Yeah, let's drop that. The Japanese light Scorpion Lightwalker. That's cool. And the Sky Raiders from Judge Dredd. I think the Scorpion's winning over the Sky Raiders. But the Quetzalcoatl. This is painful. This is painful. Yeah, okay. I think the Scorpion's winning over Quetzalcoatl as well. Yeah, that's such a nice model. It's so beautifully painted. So beautifully painted. Just look at it. So nice. Sorry, bye-bye. So, the only model that's £25 or more that is left is now the Japanese Scorpion Lightwalker. So let's go through. That's £32. So if we were to keep this, we've got £17.50 left, which is not a lot of options. Okay, let's split everything else into £15 or more, because that's going to be what's fighting against the Scorpion, and then anything less than 15 we can look at a bit afterwards. These ships. Yeah, I think there's definitely going to be cooler things than these ships. As much as I do kind of want them for my fleets, let's drop the Enterprise and the Shoryu. The Musketeers. The Musketeers would be fun to paint. Definitely the three Musketeers. Kind of painting them in the style of any of the 62,000 films that have been made on there. I think we can drop these for the moment. Oh yeah, we ended up with a bunch of civilians. I do like them though. I think we'll drop both of these. The villagers and the townsfolk, and I do like a mosquito. I have an Airfix mosquito in 1:72 scale. This is a 1:200 scale, so it's tiny, but it's cool, and I can paint it in the same way as my Spitfires. Yeah, I haven't played Blood Red Skies yet. I need to play it. I want to play it. It seems like a very cool game. Yeah, okay. Let's drop this. Let's drop the mosquito. The Winged Hussars. These were cool, but it's not really an era that I'm dealing with. Sorry, I like them. They're cool, but no. Right, so I've got 6 sets now that are more than £15. The Samurai on the Kimono Lion Dogs, they were cool. Very. I think I mentioned Tomb Raider. It's kind of where I've seen this kind of ethereal spirit Japanese styled stuff before. It would be cool to paint. Very cool to paint them in a more ethereal style rather than this. I mean, the verdigris metal is very cool as well. Sorry, we have to drop them. This set is just cool just for the variety. Is it 10 different models, 9 different models? And they're all different styles. This would be really cool for an RPG set in Japan. depending on the era. You want to do an anime RPG? Here's a set for you. Unfortunately, I think we have to drop it. Oh no. Okay, it's gone. I keep seeing this biker gang. I have one of the models from the biker gang. I got to borrow the sprue and take one model from it. But yeah, no, they're not grabbing me right now. Sorry. So even though I've said that I'm building the Italian army for bolt action, it's sort of a boring choice that the weapons teams, they are nice models of course. It's more of a practical choice, so I want them for the game rather than for the cool models. And so for that reason, we can drop this. And for a similar reason, I already have a Boudica. I don't have a chariot for her to sit on, but I do have a Boudica. Yeah, we can drop that. Sadness. It's gone. Oh, we ended up with some civilian kids. The mum chasing down the kids. Cromwell. Yeah, I don't want Cromwell. Not the original. Farmyard animals. Sprue. Yeah, we've got so many things to choose from. I think we can drop this. This is one of those things where you throw it in as an extra while you're getting other stuff. And you definitely want to do the goose, because that's funny. But this is not models to paint models. This is scenery to make if you're doing a farmyard scene. We only grabbed the Vosper torpedo boats because we wanted something from Cruel Seas. I'd like to work in yet another scale. I've got so many models in so many different scales. But I only grabbed them to grab something from the line, so let's drop the motor torpedo boats. So what I'm doing now is I'm bouncing back and forth and sort of throwing the models that I like more to one end. I'm ignoring price for the moment. I'm putting the models I like more to one end. So the Were Jaguars are right at this end. The Virai drone Scourge drone is up there. The field artillery is kind of in the middle. Yeah, and down at the other end is the kids running around. Yeah, you can go. Freeborn support team, I do like that, but I'm really only after the one model from it rather than the whole set. Off you go. So I now have got it down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 selections. There are 9 sets left, which is certainly still more than £50. But what I shall do is work out the total and kind of work out just how strict I need to be about cutting it down. Yeah, £120. So we need to cut 2/3-ish off of that. I don't want to lose the Scorpion Light Walker. It's such a cool model. Look at that thing. It's skittering around with its armor. I'm going to paint it like a big samurai robot. But it's also more than half the budget by itself. It's £32.50. I don't want to take it off. I have to take it off. I have to take it off. Because that'd take me back down to 90. So we've only got to take half of the rest off. I still have to take half of the rest of these models off. Okay. Bye-bye. Lightwalker, my beloved Scorpion. So what I'm noticing, I've just kind of gone through it again, and I've kind of tricked myself in a way, because the first time I put all the models that I sort of wanted to the right, and now I've gone through it again and I've done the opposite. I put them all to my left, and that's so that I can focus on the models that I really like the look of, rather than focusing on the ones that I like less. So that then when I get to the ones I like less, I can sort of go, hey, it's less cool than these other ones. And what I'm noticing is that the same 3 models were at the top of both times. So it's the Mayan Were Jaguars, the Vitari Drone Scourge, and the Boromite Lavamite Handler on Suspensor platform, because look at this dude. Look at this dude. So they are £42.50 for those 3. So that's most of our budget done if I was to go for those 3. And it's looking likely that that is quite possibly the selection I'll go for. I can fit a £6 model in. Can't fit an £11 model in. Oh, but the artillery frame. So this gives me that cannon. You know, several times I talked about a cannon, and there's also the lady model and the general on the horse. For the historical side of things, yeah, I think that's it. I'm going to have to painfully get rid of these cool character models that I like. I really like that one. The Concord Nuhu. And the Spider Sisters, which are just crazy. I tell you what, the Spider Sisters lasted till right at the end. So let's add these all to the cart one by one. And let's see if my maths was actually right. And I'm going to add the Spider Sisters, but they're probably going to have to drop. Yeah. Yeah, so let's drop the Spider Sisters. Let's go to the view cart. Let's look at it in the full page. And here we go. We are at £49.75. 25 pence left. Is there anything for 25 pence on this website? I don't care. Let's not worry about that. I have got 1, 2, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 models, I believe. Yeah, it's 13 models plus a casualty plus a cannon. But we finally done it. We went through that whole process, and oh boy, that was painful. It always is. So many cool models. I'm thinking back to all the ones we've cut out. Oh, there's so many good ones. Oh, the Japanese Light Walker Scorpion. All of the freeborn models. None of the freeborn survive. Strangely enough, 2 of these models are from Gates of Antares. One of these sets is the Mythic Americas, so that's all fictional stuff. And there's only one historical thing that has managed to survive, and that's the field artillery frame. So let's look at each of the models that I've chosen. For £11, the Boromite Lava Mite handler on the Suspensor platform. Just a big chunky dude on a floating platform. I don't have any model similar to this. In just the character himself, I don't have anything quite like that, and I also don't have anything quite like this floating platform. It's almost like a rock effect on the skin as well. There's a lot of different ways that you could paint that. The options are kind of running through my head, and I don't really know what I would do. But yeah, there's a lot of ways that you could do that. The Vitari weapon drone, such an odd design. Again, I said earlier, there's no focal point to it. It's just a bunch of angled shapes. But as just an aesthetic kind of amalgamation of stuff, it works, and I really like it. Plus, it counts. It's probably the right size to count as jet bike for my other project involving jet bikes. Actually, speaking of which, imagine him travelling 400 kilometers an hour on that thing. That's just silly. And then we have the Were Jaguars, which I mentioned before. I've seen them, these specific examples in person. They look amazing. They're so beautifully painted, and I can't paint anything like to this level. But I'd like to try. I'd like to give it a go. Picking one of them out. I wouldn't want to paint all 5 of them like that, but I'd pick one out and just really carefully go through them, do all of that freehand, all of that highlighting, all of that shading, all of the fur texture and stuff. I'd try, and I'd ruin it, and it'd look okay, but it wouldn't look anything as good as these. But I still want to try, and I'd certainly want to convert at least one of them to the science fiction model with armor panels, wires, robotic arm, I don't know, something like that, because you could drop that into all sorts of science fiction games. I'm happy with that choice, definitely. And I think the only reason why is because they're half price, because these were £35 normally, £7 a model, £7 and a bit a model, and I would not have been able to get them. They would have been the big spend for our £50 challenge, but because they're discounted, and I'm thankful for that, because they're pretty cool. And then finally we got just one sprue, and Warlord sells a whole bunch of sprues for all sorts of different things. I could easily get another sprue of Italians, another sprue of Germans, another sprue of a couple of sprues of Japanese, maybe even sprue of British commandos, sprue of American Marines. You get the idea. I could go for a lot of bolt action sprues, and there's some other sprues that we looked at as well. But this one gives me a cannon, and I was wanting a cannon. Let's have a look at it. This is the full box. We're not getting the full box, we're just getting one sprue. But this is an example of how they look. And they have that fancy kind of uniform. It's almost... It's reminding me of the French Napoleonic uniform, which is a little bit later on. So yes, I have completed at great lengths and pain, and over the course of many, many hours, good grief, and an entire bottle of water. I've got this down to below £50, my favourite choices, sort of, for the website. And oh, there are so many other models that I would love to pick. If only I had chosen a bigger budget. But isn't that the point? Isn't that the fun of this type of series? That I have such a tight budget, that I have to whittle things down so tightly. If you have any comments in the comment section below, any models that you think I should have looked at, any models that you think I should have chosen, or any other websites that I should look at for my next video, please do let me know. The comments are what keeps me going, that and the water. But yes, this has probably been a significantly longer video than my last one, particularly for anyone who's managed to get to the end of the video. What did you think of actually watching my whittling down process? Going through the most expensive models, getting it down to one, going kind of ordering by price for the middle price ones, and then kind of sorting through my favourites over my least favourites to whittle it down further, and then finally kind of aiming for that £50 and seeing what I could squeeze in. That's sort of how I've done it now 3 times. I've done it roughly the same way with variation. I think it's sort of a practical way of doing that. Would you like to see that process in future videos, where I'm almost certainly going to do at least another couple of these? There's a couple of websites that people have suggested that are pretty cool, that have some good options. But do you want to see the whittling down process, or shall I cut that out like I did in the first ones? Anyway, I'm rambling. This video is long enough. Let's cut it there. Thank you very much for watching. This has been a very, very long video. It's been long for me to record, and oh my word, I have to go and edit. I'm ED-SKaR. Always will be. Thank you very much for watching.